This episode contains sensitive content. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Culture Podcast, where we uncover the hidden mechanics of high control groups, their tactics, and their impact. And we speak with the survivors who broke free. My name is Derek, and I'm your host.
My name is Trinity, and I'm also your host. On this podcast, we explore cult life as real people who have lived through the life-changing process of leaving a high-control group. Welcome back to Culture Pod, the podcast where we sit with the stories that shaped us and the freedom that follows.
Today's episode is something special. We opened the floor to you, our listeners, and we invited you to give us some questions.
No filters, no rehearsed answers, just honest, open conversation about what it's really like to leave a high-control group, what healing looks like, and everything in between.
In my mind, whether you're out fresh, still questioning, or maybe decades into your journey, these questions are for you. Maybe even potentially someone who's just maybe curious and hasn't really ever been in a cult, but just kind of curious to get our take and our mindset. We're honored to walk through some of these questions with you together. I will tell you that we got a few questions from the listeners, and this is something that we will do on occasions to have an episode with questions. So please continue to send those questions to us over Instagram. Also send those questions to us over email. All of our socials, everything will be in the podcast description. So please look out for that. And we have gotten some of those also from the Instagram, just kind of notes at the bottom, the caption. So we have a few options at this point where you can send us. There also is a private community growing over on Patreon. If you want to support us there, that'll be an opportunity also where you can send questions. Some of these questions, like I said, are submitted. Some we actually decided to also just kind of add ourselves. Just kind of some questions maybe that we think would be an interesting question to pose for us. And like was said earlier, we have these questions and we have not rehearsed the answers. So we intentionally, as we've stated many times, want this to be a conversational podcast. So there is not a script for this. So either we're going to sound very intelligent
Or not.
That was not rehearsed. So I guess we'll just start here. So we did get the first anonymous question. And some people choose to remain anonymous, which is totally fine. We know that we have some PMO people out there, some people that, don't want to be mentioned. So totally understand, and you can do that as well. First question is, what kind of support has been the most meaningful to you since leaving?
Hey, I have an idea. What if we go question over question, just like we used to go house over house?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you have your not at home slips?
Oh, crap.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. But I think I'll ask you this one too. So as far as for me, there are like so many things that have been supportive. The Reddit community was a huge support in the beginning because you can see so many different types of thoughts and pains and connect with so many different people. Just you don't even know them.
Yeah, I agree.
Your support and the other people in my life who have walked through this with me, because it kind of is hellacious. It's really hard on everyone around you, and it brought a divorce into my life.
Yep.
Which and I think you too. So I guess the support of my friends and family, strangers, and then but also, to be real, I think my supporting myself has been critical. Like I've had to really buckle up and support myself.
What
About
well, I was going to
yeah.
say, I'll definitely answer that question. What was some of the self-support? I'm just really curious.
I mean, you have to constantly be learning. This is a new world that you know nothing about, so you have to learn the things around you from the perspective of I'm not a witness anymore. Paradise isn't real.
Yeah.
So you're constantly learning, being patient with myself about my failures, remembering that the shame and guilt that I felt most of my life was artificial.
Mm-hmm.
I really had no reason to feel that. It was just impressed upon me. Making peace with the things you have to make peace with, managing your own life.
Yeah.
Like part of AA and the 12 steps is admitting that your life is you're no longer managing your life or capable of managing your life. And so just all of that together, it's like this incredible journey, and the only constant is yourself.
Yeah, it's just to answer your question as well. You know, it's interesting when you mentioned the XJW Reddit. For those that don't know what Reddit is, it's kind of an online forum, like a chat forum, where you can kind of go to this website and it has a bunch of different, what would you call them, rooms or kind of.
Yeah, it's called a subreddit. And so this is basically old school tech. It's like you've got a text forum for everything, and all the other little forums are their own little sections.
And you can literally go to this website and type in a search for every different type of community. So if you love gardening, you can find a gardening community. If you love,
Anything that you could dream is there.
yeah,
Cute animals, kittens,
a
news.
community, your current city you live in will have a community where everyone's chatting about things in your city.
And we don't make any money off of that. It's just true.
So it is an amazing website. So if you don't already know about it, yeah. So what I found is with XJW Reddit, when I was first out, XJW Reddit I think had about 30 or 40,000 members.
Yeah, it's more than that now, buddy.
And this was like 2019, maybe 2020, and then now it's over 100,000 plus. I haven't looked at it lately, but it's just really great to see it growing. So I think that was definitely a support. You know, just finding different people that kind of like, oh, they're going through it. They're kind of posting their stories, their frustrations, their questions, I think has been really key. And I agree with you, like finding people around you. Like I know one of my great supporters lately has been my girlfriend, very understanding and very able to kind of sit with me, and I think it's been great. And yeah, just friends, you, Trent, of course, being there and just, having longtime friends, because we do lose so many friends, but having ones that we can reconnect with as well.
Would you say that you've gotten better or worse at friend retention now that you've left?
Ooh, that's a good question.
that's
Well,
that's a question from me.
that you finally are giving good questions. It's taken you multiple podcasts, but
Yeah, we're getting
you're
there.
slowly learning. No, I think that's such a good question. I think that you learn, and this is just from my experience and my opinion, part of the process of maintaining friendships or creating friendships post XJW and post cult for that matter, is you learn boundaries.
I was just gonna say you fucking learn boundaries. Yeah, and it
And
brings people in and puts people out.
yeah, and you just learn what type of person is going to bring me up or tear me down.
Yep.
And someone, that person that is your friend, could be, they could have good intentions, but if they continually are the person that's constantly bringing you down and not allowing you to grow and move forward, it's really unfortunate.
Well, and then there's people who actively work against you.
Yes.
Certain family members, witnesses that may be mad at you.
It's tragic, man. It's really tough to lose longtime friends and family, and it's also really tough to lose longtime friends and family that are also out,
Yeah.
because you think that you would have allies in friends and family that are out, but you do have to learn, again, from my opinion, that just because they're out of the cult or the high control group that you grew up in doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be supportive in your healing
Yeah.
and kind of your new journey. So a great question. It really sucks because it brings up some bad memories and thoughts of the loss that I've had. That's one of my big themes is loss.
Yeah, mine too, man.
I've just lost so many people, and you're just constantly trying to rebuild and find those supportive people like my current partner and the friends I have.
I want to I want to dig a little deeper into that, dude.
Okay.
How would you explain to someone who's worldly what it's like when you leave the witnesses and what you lose? Because I would describe it as you probably lose 90%, if not 95% of your family and friends when you leave, at least in the very beginning.
So your question is what it's like when you leave?
Yeah, like for instance, think about moving.
Hmm.
If you move to a new city, that's kind of like what it's like when you leave. It's kind of like moving to a new city. But you have no connections with anyone back home. It's like starting over, moving to a new city, even if you're still at home.
Yeah. what I often find, and this is something that we had to do and we've touched on before, is you do eventually just have to move.
Yeah, I moved, you moved a few times.
Part of the process is, I don't know, the community you're in, the place that you're around, you eventually go, this community does not support my desire for improvement. This community does not support my desire to move forward.
What happened to
And you often
let me interject. What happened to me was I realized I've already lost everyone. At what's the damage if I move? In fact, it
yeah.
probably will be better for me if I move because then I'll have some new energy. I can say, "Hey, I just moved to town," as opposed to, "Hey, I just got locked out of 90% of my friends and family relationships. Do you want to be my friend?" It's just it hits different.
Yeah, and it allows you to just a fresh start.
Yeah,
You just allow yourself to do that. But I do agree with your sentiment that, yeah, it's like moving. But just as my sister had mentioned on her podcast, we don't forget.
yeah,
We forgive, we move forward, we make attempts to kind of start this new life. We don't forget. But I also am thankful, speaking of the original question, when I moved to the city I'm in now, I had one friend that I was like, "You know what? I have an XJW friend that lives where I'm at now. Can I come and crash on your couch until I kind of figure out my new?" And he was there for me.
love that.
And he was the one that allowed me to get to the city where I'm at now.
You want to put some respect on his name and name him?
No, I
All
think
right,
for him, he hasn't really had a desire at this point. He may change, but he hasn't had a desire to be named or be on the podcast or be a part of this
that's
yet.
cool.
So if and when he decides, I'm sure he's
You would if you could put respect on his name.
definitely. But yeah, so yeah, the support has been great, and then we had another question if you're ready to move on.
Oh, yeah. This is from Cassidy. Do you believe leaders of high control groups are aware of the harm they cause, or are they so entrenched in the system that they don't see it? That's a good question. Thank you for that.
Cassie at this point will need to be an ongoing question giver.
Yeah,
She's locked into continually needing to provide us questions because that's such a good one.
that's a good one.
And she's also willing to have her name out there, which I think is great.
Yeah,
So, do you believe leaders of high control groups are aware of the harm they cause? Or are they so entrenched in the system they don't see it? I think we've touched on this a little bit. I think it might be a little bit of both.
I think it's both. Yeah.
I think that there are some people that are kind of in charge, whether they're all the way at the top in the governing body. Oftentimes they talk about cults, they have to have like one centralized leader. And that's mostly a common representation of a cult, is having that one charismatic leader. And with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they've really structured it like a business, like Trent has mentioned so many times. And so they've kind of put it into this group of men that do it. And I believe probably in that group, there's probably some that genuinely, truly believe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the same is true of the elders and the ministerial servant group. Like each little section that we talked about on their prior pod of like the sections and the systems and how they all work together. Each little group is going to have a different variance on.
Yeah, there's a reason why that term in the XJW community, PMO, exists, physically and mentally out.
Yeah.
And we know that we've heard of elders that are still eldering. They're still leading the congregation. They're giving talks. They're going out and preaching, and they are PMO. They have joined these XJW Reddits and these forums and these Facebook groups, and they're like, it's horrible, but I have to stay in for my family.
That is a very I was just telling someone about that today. That is very
They've
true.
done the math, and they're like, if I decide to leave, I lose everything.
Yeah.
And so,
It's a really simple calculation whenever you like are raised to just you're the provider for your family, you're the one who takes care of them, and then if you uproot them and move to a new city colloquially, that's hard on your family.
mhm. So
Um
yeah, so I believe it's a little bit of both.
I agree. I think it's a little bit of both, but like I was saying, I want to go a little deeper on what I was saying. Like
Let's go. Let's get it.
I think that there are some that a small like this represents all of humanity. There really are all types of people in the Jehovah's Witnesses, and there are a certain amount of them that are psychopathic. But then that's a small percentage, just like in the real population.
Okay.
Like and not everyone's a psychopath. Most people are pretty good, and that
Where are you taking this?
well, I'm just saying that I think that more often than not, these people are like, we've talked about your dad. That dude has done so much and yet still thinks that he is a good example of Christianity. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. I think that even if they are not aware, they think they're doing good.
Yeah, it's interesting because I imagine someone like my father that kind of fits that archetype. You wonder, is he doing the mental gymnastics or the mental math every day without an awareness that he does certain things in front of people, where
Or does he have the
or
awareness?
or
Yeah.
or worse, of course, worse, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he puts on the show, the armor, the mask for one, set of people and groups. He's an elder. He gives talks. He is, last time I checked years ago, he's a pioneer. He leads the ministry group. He's a remote Bethelite,
The more that I think about it,
and then he goes home and he
yeah.
does certain things. Stuff that we've said in the past. And then some things that we believe to be true now, and it's like that doesn't align with what you're preaching and teaching, my man.
Yeah. That makes me think that truly a lot of people are so entrenched in the system they can't see it.
Yeah.
They have the blinders on, but the thing is, the system is designed to be blinders. It truly
Oh,
is.
good point. Yeah, I think there's also like witnesses don't. This again is my opinion. There's probably a large subset of witnesses that don't dive into archetypes. They don't dive into
Yes. Yeah.
these kind of psychological things.
They're high level.
They don't dive into personalities and different traits like a psychopath, or they just never really take the time to really research the psyche and the schema. And so they they may not even realize how they're acting might be a psychopath
Yeah.
or a narcissist.
And I do think that, yeah, I genuinely think that because I remember when we were in, my life was so easy. Like Sunday, I went to church, well, to meeting, and then Monday I started preparing for the Tuesday meeting. Tuesday I went to the Tuesday meeting. Wednesday I started preparing for the Thursday meeting. I went to the Thursday meeting. And both of those things wear you out. They're 2 hours long and you're mentally challenged the whole time. And then you get Friday off. You usually go out, or do something fun. And then Saturday, you're out in the field ministry. And then you study for Sunday. And then it starts all over again. That is very entrenching. It's purposefully tethering, and it's like mentally demanding, So now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I would say a lot of people probably are just in that really deep cycle, nose to the grindstone.
Well, that's part of that thought process of thought control. They put so much on your plate, your calendar, your schedule.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of free time to research interests.
And then that whole time that you're doing their research, they're telling you how to think and what you should feel
Yeah.
and what you should focus on for that week.
Yeah. So
Good question, Cassidy. Thank you.
Cassidy. Yes, thank you, Cassidy. Great question. And Trent, great follow-up questions.
Hey, thanks, man.
You're just stimulating the conversation. So,
I'm just trying my best.
so the next one actually is by another anonymous person. Do you believe a therapist must have lived through a cult experience to be effective in helping
I
survivors?
remember when this came up for me and you because I remember this question.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know, man. This really could go either way. It depends on where your mind is at. Because I gone to therapists before who didn't specialize in cult therapy? Yes, and I did get good results.
Yeah.
But then I've talked with people who have, and it's better. And there's also this idea of it's better to have some help than no help.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think something that's very important as we get older, and I think this is even something that isn't even necessarily like high control group or cult related, but just having an open mind to new information to help change your mindset. Because we live
Yeah.
based on our lived experiences. And so, my lived experience says, "Oh, I've had this subset of time with a couple of therapists." And so therefore it creates a mindset that, like, for me personally, I would want to have someone that has some occult experience or high control group experience in order to help me. However, a good argument is posed. Well, a therapist doesn't need to have gone through trauma or abuse in order to help someone with trauma and abuse. And so it's really important to know that, these therapists out here that are doing the work and really helping a lot of us out, they haven't gone through all of this stuff and are still very, very helpful. So,
And sometimes it's like kind of you can't be the blind leading the blind either. You don't want your therapist to have been thoroughly traumatized by the same stuff you were necessarily. Maybe you want them to be a healthier, untarnished mindset.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I've said that in the past, and I think based on a little bit more conversation and a little bit more insight, I'm definitely in the mindset of like find your therapist that works for you.
Yes, I can pray to that. Amen.
I'll pray to Anunnaki about all of that. Um, so that's kind of where I land on that. I'm definitely open to anyone that's trying to find a therapist. Find the one that works for you, and if that person has cult experience, great. If that person doesn't, you're ultimately, and this is just in general, sometimes people go through multiple therapists till they find the one that's right for them. So that's where I land on that.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question from Stacy. This is a good one.
Hmm.
Do you still follow any of the Bible's teachings since leaving?
That is a good question. Um, here's my mindset about the Bible, and we've talked to kind of about what I view happens with most people after they come out of this stuff is they kind of have these phases or chapters of their life where they're very atheist or anti. It's only natural for the human brain and the human mindset to kind of go, well, this Christian religion did not do well for me. This Christian religion hurt me. This damaged me. I'm going to assign the Christian entity of God as the reason that happened. And therefore I must do away with the Bible, the Christian Bible and its teachings altogether. Would you kind of agree with that mindset? Or understand at least what I'm saying?
I would understand that. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's really easy to land there and stay there. I really do. But some people continue on, and then as they kind of are open and curious, curiosity is very important. Stay curious, stay humble,
Yeah.
and then as you go through that process, you may land on, like an agnostic mindset. I'm open to all possibilities, and we've talked. That's kind of where we're at.
Well, yes, but here's the thing: is if you reword the question, do you still follow any of the Bible's morals since leaving?
Mm.
I still do by definition of I'm trying to be a patient, loving, kind, caring man.
So what you're saying is Stacy tried to entrap us. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
She
She's trying to trick us.
she's
But
something else.
I think that anyone who's on a self-improvement journey, who cares about making themselves better, who cares about their family, who genuinely loves well as a human, is going to have a ton of crossover with someone who is following the Bible's teachings.
There's no doubt that some of the Bible's teachings are grounded in things that help you live a better life.
Like love your brother, respect your parents.
Mhm.
I have a kid. I say stuff like respect your father all the time. It doesn't have to be a scripture, you know.
And then I think Jedekiah 12:13 says, "Do as I say, not as I do."
Yeah.
Um, so I think if you think about the question that way, do you follow the Bible's teachings or morals as a whole? There's a lot I'm very grateful for the way I was raised in a Christian, although maybe a fringe sect of Christianity that I'm very thankful for. And I know you've said similar,
Yeah.
but would I say I follow the Bible's teachings or like its message, like its theme and kind of that stuff? I would say that I haven't landed on being a Bible follower or like a Christian or God or the Lord or Yahweh. I don't follow that kind of mindset or teaching. I personally have a mindset that Jesus was real. He's a real historical figure, and that is confirmed through multiple secular resources that he indeed was a real person. And I think that there's some mindset that you have that maybe he might be a very exceptional individual in history,
Yeah.
but I don't believe him to be, someone that is God or God's son or somehow in having or possessing something very fantastical.
Yeah, we can't even agree on I mean, we can agree that he's human, but then we can't
Mhm.
agree on whether or not he's part of the Trinity or if he's God's actual son or
Yeah, I think the thing you learn is and you've talked about this before in the past, is circular reasoning. So I think the mindset is you're going to use the Bible to prove the Bible.
yes.
You know what I mean? And it's like you have to find secular resources. And again, this is just my mindset because I'm sure that there's a lot of people listening that do follow the Bible and its teachings and are still have found Jesus or found the Lord and they've saved them or what have you. And I totally respect that. We've talked about that in the past that, if you found something that works for you, go for it.
Yep.
No hate at all, no problems, no issues. But for me, the only things that really prove the Bible to be true in most people's minds is the Bible itself.
Yeah. And so there, okay. Let's take the Bible out of the equation. And let's just say we're talking about the human man, Jesus. Without the Bible, why would I ever think that he was his own father?
That's a great question.
Why the fuck would I ever, like Derek, are you your own father? What if I just got a wild hair that you're your own dad?
If I was my own father, you could also say I'm an image of my father,
Yeah.
and I'm thankful I'm not.
Yeah. Damn. Well, I just think that it's like little simple reasoning like that goes a long way. Like, if the Bible wasn't here, why would I think that there's any reason to be arguing about whether Jesus was God or his son or a human? Without the Bible, I would just think he's a human who did good things and he spread a
Yeah,
good message, you know?
yeah, and it's really tough because again, for people that are listening, it's really hard. Like a lot of people nowadays, you want a confirmation bias. You want to live in a lane where all the information you take in
Makes sense, confirms, checks the boxes.
makes sense to you, confirms your current identity or belief. And the moment that something happens and it goes against your thought process or beliefs or kind of how you live your life, you immediately want to reject it. And I don't believe that to be good overall because you do want to be challenged with different thinking. You want your brain to be stimulated with different thoughts to challenge yourself and go, is this right? Is this wrong? That's what we did
Yeah.
in order to leave.
Every person who leaves does that.
And so, but what inevitably ends up happening is that person then attaches to the next thing, and they forgot the ability that they had and used to get out. But again, if you land on something, you're like, I'm so happy. My life has purpose. My life has meaning. I've landed
Yeah.
on this wonderful teaching,
And you're doing no harm.
and you're doing no harm. I'm so grateful that you found a life for you and your family that isn't full of all the kind of controlling mechanisms and harm that certain groups have. So that's kind of where I lie. I think we could go on about that topic for a long time.
Oh, for sure. But let's do the other
It's
questions. We have about seven
yeah,
of
it's
them.
very nuanced, but I think it's a great question, Stacy, and I'm so appreciative of you for reaching out. She was one of the first persons to reach out when we put that out on our socials.
Sweet.
So you're more than welcome and always welcome to continue in the conversation. And both Cassidy and Stacy are welcome to come on the podcast as well.
Yeah, hit us up.
Remember that although we see each other on video while we're talking, it is an audio only podcast. So no stresses there. If you have a story to tell, whether you're inside or outside, if you're part of a cult, not part of a cult, love to have you on. Okay. And then what we decided to do too is just kind of pose a couple questions that we thought would be nice. Those are the end of our questions that were given by the people that are supporting us online. So I'll just start with the first one. And some of them are a little personal. So here we go. And again, we haven't rehearsed at all. So we might be terrible.
Yeah,
What was the very first moment you felt truly free after leaving?
I'm a little scared. These are personal.
You're like, oh, fuck.
I saw this one, like when we started the pod, and I feel it every fucking day, genuinely. And part of it is just how I've chosen to live my life very freely. But I remember moved out here to Texas and ended up having to get a 1 bedroom apartment by myself with a daughter. I had a pool lawn chair,
Mm,
like the classic white pool chair, with my computer set up on the floor,
whoa.
and my TV on the floor and like a sleeping bag,
Yeah.
and like I didn't even have a bed at this time. I had some cash. I knew I had to provision. I
Okay.
found myself sitting in that floor playing Graveyard Keeper for days. It was like 4 days. I just like took care of my needs and strategized and thought, and I realized this is it. You have no tethers. You have absolutely nothing. You are worthless in every sense of the word, kind of, but you're free,
You know,
and that was powerful.
that actually brought to mind it's kind of ironic because I had a very similar mindset about that question for me. So when I left, so I tried to get my ex-wife out for over a year. As my wake up process was happening, I really did try. So I was physically and mentally out for a long time.
Mm,
And then I eventually told her because I couldn't wake her up. I just had to have the harsh reality of the conversation. And of course, she wasn't willing to budge and kind of stuck to her ground. And then they eventually had to fully leave. So we separated, which unfortunately did leave to the divorce and kind of going through all that. And that was problematic. But I remember moving in my apartment
yeah, feels good.
and I was like, I have my own place and I'm all alone. I'm all by myself. And it came with a lot of weight, but I was free. And I was like, Now everything I do, for good or bad, is my choice, my decision." And it was there was a weight to it, but I was very happy. And I think I actually got a tattoo with the word freedom on it, and I think it's really interesting because
Yeah.
I think that word can kind of be negatively used now in America. There's so much kind of around like, oh, American freedom and this and that. And it's like I genuinely have a different meaning and an understanding of what true freedom means because I grew up in such an environment that didn't have simple freedoms that allowed me to kind of dress the way I wanted or have tattoos or
When you live under the level of control that we had, we definitely experience freedom differently than other people,
yeah,
man. And everyone who leaves does, because it's such a anyone who's been held down, or we were literally mentally enslaved and spiritually enslaved against our will,
yeah,
dude. And then when you get free from that, it's amazing. So honestly, apartments are real
yeah.
ones. Like
I mean, it's a true visual
always.
representation of okay, I'm by myself now. I live
Yeah. Alone in an apartment.
so here we go.
Hey,
Yeah.
Derek, how do you sometimes handle the guilt that creeps in? That's our next question. How do you handle the guilt that sometimes creeps back in, even when you know you've left for the right reasons? I think that's kind of an early on problem because most of us self sort that shit out by like year one or two.
Well, the interesting thing about this question is I lived with such guilt in
Mm,
that the place where I'm at now and have been at for quite a few years is I don't live with any guilt.
yep.
I have got to a point where my decisions in my life that I've created and then continue to create, I don't have any guilt. And I know that's hard maybe for some other people. They constantly are living with guilt of maybe actions they did or didn't do. You really have to rest in the mindset of everything is in the past and you have stuff to look forward to in the future, but you're in this present moment now. And in this present moment now, I work so hard to be where I'm at now that I can't go back and think about all of the things that I fully wasn't in control of. It's like the herd mentality. Like a sheep has it built into them that once one or two sheep is in front of them being guided to a path, the herd will follow. It's just how they're built. If you watch
Yep.
someone herding sheep, and to some extent that is how I lived. I was part of a herd. I was a sheep and I did and didn't do things that weren't necessarily in my control. But now I'm not part of that herd anymore, so I just don't genuinely have guilt in it. That is one of the things that also feels so free. What about you?
Well, what's funny is I had a ton of guilt. It was the complete opposite because I had a family. I saw myself as like, I had given myself to Jehovah, dude. So it was like betraying my best friend, when I left. So I had a ton of guilt for the first year or two. And I figured that I felt that pretty severely. So I talk to a lot of people who maybe still have some guilt, but it seems to lessen more and more over time.
Yeah, it's not something like the way I carry myself now. It's not something that I had the whole time. this is stuff that you have to work on. This is a part of the steps you have to put in.
Yeah.
And and some people have an ability to do it better than others, but it's something that we can do. We can take control of our own mind and inhabit it the way that we want and wrestle
Yeah.
with it in order to get to a place where you're like, I'm in charge now. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. And I still, have things here and there, but yeah, I'm very thankful. And again, I've mentioned it before. That's why I finally was able to start this podcast. I had to be right in the right mindset in order to do it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have done it even a year or two ago. So, speaking of wrestle, what's one belief you carried from your old life that you still wrestle with, Trinity?
What's I was thinking about this, and I think it's that I still pretty much.
You're looking ahead of the questions?
Yeah.
So you have been rehearsing.
Oh no, never. Just thinking.
Okay.
I kind of still am the same agnostic that I was back then. And that's hard. I'm still the same dude. I still don't know just as much as I didn't know back then. And I was just in the system and I was drinking the Kool-Aid, but I still don't know just as hard.
Yeah. Yeah, this question I don't think really, we put it on here, but I don't, again, these aren't rehearsed, so a belief that I carried from my old life, I don't wrestle with a belief in my old life. I have moved on.
You done did that.
Yeah, the wrestling match has happened.
I had a lot of respect for how you left, to be honest with you, because it took me, I had to water down my life slowly or maybe boil myself slowly, one or the other. But you kind of just went all in because I was managing a lot of juggling balls at the time and couldn't let them drop.
Yeah, well, I think outwardly
Mm,
it's like, oh, that movement, that punch happened, but again, this was something I worked with on for a while.
yeah, true.
To we go back to that original question, what kind of support? I mean, some of these XJW Reddit forums was support to kind of get a mindset or understanding about what to do, what not to do. We didn't mention it, but some of these different YouTubers, that are making XJW content,
Yeah.
is very informative and helpful. And so I really just had a mindset of some will remember this concept, but to be slow about speaking. Uh, so I
Triggered.
had a so I had a mindset to be slow about my speaking, slow about my doing, to be very intentional and mindful with what actions I wanted to take. But that whole process of research and everything was quite a while until I said, okay, now it's time to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And it was hard because I mean, everything went down within like a month or two. And then I was just out. And it was like, oh
Yeah. It
shit.
was so different for me.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is actually very pertinent. Did you have to grieve that whenever you moved on from that, like you just turned on a dime? Did you grieve your past self or the version that you never attained? It's a dying of a sort, isn't it, dude?
I think the grief that I had was knowing that a lot of time was wasted,
Yeah, me too.
and the fact that
I grieved paradise. That's what really made me cry in my bed at night, was grieving the loss of paradise. I'm like such a jack of all trades. I love building things. I spent my whole life learning trades just so I could be useful in paradise.
yeah.
Like, it killed me.
Yeah, I grieved, and I've touched on this topic. I grieved on the thought that I actually wouldn't see my mom who died of cancer.
Yeah, we just talked about that.
Um, and different loved ones, my grandma who I was close with. So there is grief there. It's just it sucks when you lose the mindset that, oh, I probably won't see these people again because you held it for so long.
Yeah, the finality of it.
But I think for the most part it was time lost. You'll just never get that back. I think about, we weren't allowed to go to school. We weren't allowed to go to college. We weren't allowed to, do these additional things. So it was just never even on my trajectory. And now as I've gotten older, I'm like, I would love to do that. And it's going to be challenging, but it's a goal of mine now. And it's funny because I'm not very tall. And this is maybe just ridiculous, but I was really good at basketball, man. I was
You're pretty tall. You're taller than me. You're like 5'11", bro.
let's say 6'12". Let's
Oh, okay, yeah.
7'7". No, I grew up playing basketball and I loved it. And it's like, man, I could have maybe potentially, had a basketball scholarship
Yeah.
and gone to college that route. there just was no support to ever even do that. So that kind of
Yeah,
sucks.
that was me and my music. I could have gone far, I think.
You,
But
dude, yeah, you've always been great at music from the moment I met your adult self. I was always very like jealous because I've never been able to do like guitar or do that. I can sing, but I've never been in that. And it was always something like, gosh, I think Trent's going to go somewhere, but you're just constantly hampered by,
I was so hampered. Every turn I made, like we were doing sales and events, and like the everything I did to further it that made the elders breathe more down my neck, man. I was getting reported on by people who would come to my shows.
yeah.
Anyway,
No, yeah, you like, and you still make music. You send me
yeah, oh
music,
yeah,
and it's great. And you've we've talked about collaborating with Gork in the past, and obviously he's still doing his thing. But yeah, so the next question: do you think it's possible to stay spiritual after leaving a controlling religion? And if so, how has your definition of spirituality changed? I like this question.
yeah, it's a good one. I think that there's two types of people who need something spiritual and people who don't. I think you could break down the whole world into those two groups of people. Some people go the complete opposite way. They want nothing to do with it. They go full secular, like more power to you. I have a sense of spirituality, but it's non Christian, or it's a
Mhm.
different variation that's so different from what, you know, would be considered Christian. So, but it's like there's interweaving things in my spirituality. Like
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
in AA, for instance, you have to believe in a higher power of some kind because you have to submit to something. And so some of the real smart old guys I go with,
Yeah.
they just get in the habit of submitting to some vague higher power and living, you know, within those lines. So I don't know. I think, I mean, and we were raised in Flagstaff, which is just next to Sedona. Think about all the hippy dippy bullshit like that I have been drinking the Kool Aid of since I was 10. Like, I love hippies shit,
Well,
I'm into all of it.
well, and it's funny because you say bullshit, but at the same time, it's like, is
I'm
it?
having a pragmatic viewpoint. That's how people view it. I love it. I was raised with it. What if they're onto something?
Yeah.
Maybe yoga does help you feel
Yeah.
peaceful. Oh my God.
I've gone through so many different
Yeah.
mindsets about crystals
Yeah. And
and
I
rocks
think we've
and
both seen each other go from opposite ends of the spectrum multiple times.
yeah, and that goes back to that like I'm okay, I'm curious. We don't truly know, but if you land on something and it's like, man, I believe that those rocks in Sedona have some sort of power. That's great.
Yep.
I mean, if you've locked in and said this is so meaningful and purposeful to me, I think that's amazing. And I don't say that jokingly at all. I don't fully understand it, but I have a mindset where I'm like, I am so thankful that you landed and you grounded yourself on something that you find purpose and power and belief in.
Yeah.
So if that's your spirituality, I think it's amazing. I'm very much the same. I've mentioned this before, but I very much side on the scientific method, very logic, very practicality based. You have to give me data points, show me. But at the same time, there's a lot of weird shit out there, man. There's a lot of unexplained. There's some weird stuff where this
There
just
is. I think you have to be open to it.
it just doesn't have real answers. And so you again you have confirmation bias. And so if you're landing on a mindset where I believe
Yeah.
in the power of the moon or different things, you're going to align with the answer that your brain is creating or the answer that you're getting or given is going to say, "Oh, this is because of the stars and the celestial bodies," and that's just kind of how we lock into what we settle with. And if someone gives me enough data, I kind of land on kind of a Buddhist philosophy or a Buddhist mindset. I really think it's fascinating. I think a lot of the teachings of the Buddha really resonate, and I'm definitely nowhere near a practicer or very like in depth, but it just really makes sense that in Stoicism.
Yep. Stoicism, I fuck with so hard. It's like a constant striving to do better in that. But
Yeah,
dude, it's that is all it takes to be spiritual. It doesn't have to
yeah.
be anything other than what is bringing you peace and calm. How are we defining spiritual?
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a lot of spirituality when it comes to that, and I at this what I was saying too, just to close out that thought, Gosh, if someone was to give me something and it's like, dude, look down this path, I'd be very open to it. And if that path kind of led to like, oh, okay, now because I've gone down this path and it really resonates me and I get it and I feel it and it's increased my spirituality, my groundedness, great.
Yeah,
Uh, but no one's really brought anything to my attention that's like, oh shit, this is like this makes sense with my alignment, my attunement in life. Like this really makes sense.
that may never happen.
And it may never happen, and I'm totally
Yeah.
fine with that. But yeah, that's a good question. And then we'll close out with two more here. We just wanted to have another quick interstitial podcast just to bring up some of these questions. So we are appreciative for the people that sent us a couple. What would you say to someone who's afraid to leave because they don't want to lose their family?
I would say probably stuff from like the Satanic Bible,
Okay, I'm ready.
and some other things. Like, you have to put yourself first, like in life, you know? You don't have to lose your family, you know? You don't, that's not every story, but what you do have to have is a homogenous life, and if one where you're free. And I think all efforts should be made to save your family, to whatever that means to you, you know? But I think that if you're going to be you could be Pimo. There's all these things you could do to keep your family. What's the right choice? Only you can make that choice for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, no one, and you can get advice. You should get advice. You should talk to a therapist, someone who's qualified. You know, there's all these things we should do. Just do them, you know?
Yeah, it's such an interesting, thoughtful question because I don't know the specific word afraid. If you have fear to leave, I think you have to ask yourself the question of what is forming this fear in my brain? What is what is getting me to this point where
Yeah.
and what are the things that are causing this fear?
See, that's how I
So
left.
if
Asking myself those
yeah,
questions, that is literally how I left.
yeah, if the reason and cause for fear is your family, that's like I don't know, returning to the dog that bit you.
Let me ask you this, Derek. Are you fearful of your girlfriend?
Absolutely not.
Okay, why?
My girlfriend is very loving, has created a very loving, safe space for me.
Yeah, man. And same for mine.
And she aligns with me. Like, you get a person in your life that I don't know, sometimes you have the situation where you're like, "Oh, that's how it could be."
Yeah.
And some people may never get that, but if you and this isn't even necessarily a relationship thing, but I think it's a great bring up, Trent.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel fear about your dad?
No, absolutely not.
But and even though you don't feel fear, he's still not in your life, you know, but you certainly don't feel like he's going to be an ally for you. He's not going to come to your rescue. He's not going to treat you like a friend. It's complicated when you're,
It's super complicated, but you have to do the weights and measures.
yeah,
And it's like, what is a person, and it could be any person. In this case, because you brought up my father, what is my father bringing to the table versus what he's not? And right now, in this current state of how he kind of lives, he's bringing more pain, more problems, more issues, more control, and then so the weight scales don't balance. They're very, very unbalanced.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I'm not afraid of him. I'm not. I'm very hopeful that that changes. But it doesn't. You can have multiple mindsets at a time.
yeah.
There can be multiple realities at a time. That I'm not afraid of my father, and I also genuinely want him to return. But the person I want to return doesn't
I
exist.
remember a time when you were afraid of him,
Do tell.
or not maybe afraid, but where you had some big shit to say to him and you were nervous.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't frame that as fear. I think grand scheme, having a conversation with my father, if he were to call me, there is a level of fear there, a level of timidness, a level of uncertainty. But I think at the end of the day, it's like I am who I am now. I'm years removed of the situation I was in. Uh,
What if your partner called you? Would you feel fear?
no, no.
I guess what I'm saying is, like, if you're feeling afraid of your family or feeling afraid of the cult, that is usually a sign of dysfunction. And when you're with someone who truly loves you, you know, it's gonna hit different.
Yeah, and I see what you're getting at too. Like if it would be ridiculous me to say like, if my dad called or I called my dad or whatever, because we haven't talked in years, it would just be like, oh hey, what's up? It would be like, oh boy, he's calling.
Yeah,
This is going to be maybe a challenging conversation at this point, maybe a health related conversation, or maybe something that would be difficult. And so I would be kind of a monster not to have like a level of uncertainty or kind of fear around that situation. But
yeah,
I think overall, I think my mindset is none of these people in my past hold anything over me that allow me to move forward in life. And I think that's a good place to try to get to.
that's beautiful, man.
I thought of another aspect too of like, if a Jehovah's Witness knocked on my door,
Mhm.
right now.
I get a pit in my belly every time I see him.
Yeah, there's still a level, if I see them out at the carts and I kind of go through, oh, do I want to go up and talk to them? Do I want to cause a scene? Do I want to, say they're a cult? Do I want to, fake out and like just ask questions and be like I'm just a rando, or do I just inevitably just keep walking? And so there's stuff there. I haven't had it yet, but I imagine if a Jehovah's Witness, rang the doorbell, knocked on the door, there would be a little bit of stuff in my belly, like, oh boy, okay, what do I do here? And I would probably just be a not at home for
Yeah.
that. So
Well,
it is what
I
it
guess
is.
I rambled a little bit, but the point that I was trying to make is just in general, you can't feel fear in your home.
Yep.
Your home has to be a place that's safe. If you're feeling fear at home or at your church, you should search yourself and see why you're feeling those fears, like Derek said. And healthy is when you're not fearful in your home.
Yeah.
That's a step toward healthy.
And we would be remiss to say that you're also part of not creating the fear of others in your home.
Right.
It's you have a little community inside your own home, so we all have to work on that every day as well. Okay, last question. Do you want to take it?
Yeah. What do you wish people understood about cult survivors?
I'm gonna pass. Just kidding. What do you wish people understood about cold survivors? What do I wish? I'd say that they're not one size fits all, and they're not what your kind of predetermined definition is. Cult survivor can be someone that got out of a Peloton group.
Yeah.
They we got someone that came out of a Soul Cycle group or some sort of fit camp.
CrossFitters. Oh my God.
CrossFitters. They could be someone that really got caught up in Amway.
Hmm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a religious entity. I did mention this on my interview with Jeremy. I really got into that show, The Vow, on HBO, and it's about the Nexium cult. It has nothing to do with any sort of religious entity. It was just a man starting a kind of a business around development, like self development, and it just became this whole thing. And that all of those people that were locked into that were definitely a part of a high control group in a cult, and they got out, and they have had to work really hard to get to a better mindset. So I would just say, like, maybe the understood thing is cults are not just Jonestown.
Yeah.
They're not just drinking the Kool Aid. They're not,
Not just
these kind of.
witnesses either. We talk about them because that's the high control group that we were in for a while.
So I challenge anyone, even if like you're like, gosh, I really got caught up in that Soul Cycle thing. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to have a conversation and just kind of see what you went through, and maybe it wasn't necessarily a full cult experience, but maybe it's like some culty type things. Um, yeah, so that would be my answer to the question. What about you?
From where I'm at,
You can't take any of
I
mine. You
won't.
have to be
I have new
completely
ones.
unique and okay.
From where I'm at now, I wish that everyone understood that anyone who's left the witnesses is probably carrying a lot of pain. And when we interact with these people and we talk with them on our podcast and we share tears in public and private and we hear about everything that's going on in their lives, it just it really makes you feel and love humanity. We're all going through so much all the time. We're all at different levels of distractions, but we all probably should call our friends more and make sure that they're loved, you know, and especially us who have left a high control group. I just think we all need a hug, maybe more than
Well said.
someone who hasn't left the cult.
And I think the more and more I talk to with people on this pod, I'm grateful to have this podcast to do so.
Same. I've really loved everyone that I've met through this pod.
They all kind of seem to have a different thing.
Yeah.
Some of it's really deep. It's very trauma based. It's very abuse and control and a lot of issues. And then some of it is very much like doctrine and kind of those type of things that kind of get them on their path to kind of waking up or kind of having a mindset change to want to get out. And they're all very valid. Some of them may not be flashy, but I do try to have a lot of respect for people that's like, dude, you grew up in something so different than what most of the world grew up in. Totally different.
Yeah.
So yeah, great couple questions, great answers by Trent. I think my answers were okay.
Oh, whatever.
Um,
Don't even put that evil on me.
I think your answers are far superior to this
Oh,
podcast.
whatever.
So I just wanted to close out, and we'll kind of have an outro here, and just kind of get through to the end here to make it real succinct. But um, you know, again, continued support. We really appreciate the support from the podcast. Appreciate everyone on Instagram, leaving comments and likes, and hopefully that you guys are liking that. In addition to the podcast itself, and keep those questions coming. You can keep reaching out to us over email or on Instagram.
Yeah, we can't tell you how much the questions are helpful because we're just two guys, like we have day jobs and we work, and we've talked for years about all of this. We're kind of, I can't say we're talked out of it because we're here, but sometimes fresh perspective and fresh questions are just really appreciated.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really great to, I don't know, have these little behind the scenes conversations. I think Trent and I have both had people approach us online. Just very grateful. People that are like, I wish I had this. Um,
Well, and there's people who are showing us new things like TikTok, might be coming.
yeah, yeah, learning other platforms and technology. And
Want to do it.
yeah, I think there's, this is just my humble opinion. I think there's an underserved area where people can come to, where it's just a genuine, authentic conversation. And with that comes, maybe it's not amazingly produced. Maybe it's not clean.
Maybe there's dogs barking in the background from one of our guests.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're getting people on here that don't have a professional setup.
All walks of life.
They just are very grateful enough to come on and chat and kind of tell us their story. So bear with us through all of this. It's really great to kind of keep this going and have these conversations keep flowing, and getting new insights and new stories, and new things. So very appreciative. So thank you to everyone. Your voices matter. These conversations help everyone.
Including us.
And if today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you. We'll try to keep these Q&As coming.
You are not alone. You never were. We have all been here the whole time. We're connecting now. It's great.
And healing isn't linear. We're not here with all the answers. It's messy. And so
It is messy.
a kind of a willingness to kind of come along with us in a very, very, very public forum,
Yeah.
where we're not going to always be right. We're not always going to fully align with you. Just allow this to kind of go into your ear, and let it maybe resonate, or just kind of sit for a moment and then pass. So thank you so much for listening to the Culture Pod, and Trinity and I will be talking with you soon.
We'll catch you on the flip. Thank you for joining us on this journey in this era. If you found today's episode valuable, please share it with someone who might need it. Check the podcast description for our socials and other information.
Please consider supporting us at Patreon at patreon.com/culturepod. If you'd like to tell your story, please contact us at cult.ture.pod@gmail.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay free.